a single person said good morning back. Not, let's try it, good morning. The gallery is alive and well today. The hour of convening has arrived and the Senate will now come to order. I'd ask that all unauthorized persons exit our beautiful chamber at this time. Must be getting close to crossover. We've got the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee back there at the center door. He's scouting bills over here. Chair, I'd like to recognize the distinguished pinch hitter, the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is an honor. This day in history, 1933, the very first singing telegram was delivered. And it is our understanding that the senator from the 53rd is doing that right now in the House of Representatives. Today is also National Cream Cheese Brownie Day, and the Senator 49th will be speaking to that later. The journal has been read and found to be correct.
Senator, you have raised the bar. We're not used to that level of intellect at this juncture, but we'll speak to the Rules Chairman about that, but I appreciate your leadership. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions, please bring them up to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 473 by Senator Sims of the 12th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to revise and restate the law relating to the Sumter County Board of Education and
Slow go.
Senate Bill 474 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to property tax exemption.
Finance.
Senate Bill 475 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Wilkinson County, approved February 28,
Slow go.
Senate Bill 476 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Education of Wilkinson County, approved April 3rd, 19...
Slow go.
Senate Bill 477 by Senators Merritt of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to provide for non-binding advisory referendum for the purpose of ascertaining whether the electors of the
Ethics.
state... Senate Bill 478 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 12 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to parks, historic areas...
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 479 by Senators Hatchett of the 50th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 1611-131 of the OCGA relating to possession of firearms by convicted felons.
Public safety.
Senate Bill 480 by Senators Anavitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to educational programs under quality basic education.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 481 by Senators Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title 2 of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Hemp Farming Act so as to allow persons convicted...
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
Senate Bill 482 by Senator Anavitarte of the 31st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the election of the members of the Paulding County Board of Education.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 483 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 27 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to lottery for education so as to
Regulated industries.
Senate Bill 484 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to workers' compensation so as to provide workers...
Insurance and labor.
Senate Resolution 463 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Electrification of Transportation and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 56 by Reverend Cantrell of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 1562 of the OCGA relating to the number of judges of superior courts so as to
Judiciary.
House Bill 263 by Representative Scroggins of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 471171 of the OCGA relating to the amount of retirement benefits for judges of the probate
Retirement.
courts. House Bill 1045 by Representative Gaines of the 117th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to workers' compensation so as to extend the time period
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 1099 by Representatives Hatchett of the 150th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing the method of election of members of the Board of Education of Lawrence County.
Slow go.
House Bill 1100 by Representatives Hatchett of the 150th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Lawrence County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1155 by Representatives Barton of the 5th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the office of Commissioner of Gordon County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1156 by Representatives Hatchett of the 150th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Johnson County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1151 by Representatives Hatchett of the 150th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for reapportionment or redistricting of the districts from which by which members of the Board of Education of Johnson County are elected.
Slow go.
House Bill 1159 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to increase the number of commissioners of roads and revenues for the county of Calhoun from 3
Slow
to
go.
5. House Bill 1160 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Clay County, approved February 16, 1950.
Slow go.
House Bill 1161 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Clay County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1162 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reapportioning the election districts of the Board of Education of Telfair County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1163 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Dodge County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1164 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the the Office of Commissioner of George County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1165 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, the bill to be entitled an act to amend an act for the composition of the Board of Education of Wheeler County, approved February 13th, 1954.
Slow go.
House Bill 1166 by Representative Yurta of the 152nd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Lee County, approved
Slow go.
April. House Bill 1167 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Telfair County, approved February 4th, 1993, as
Slow
amended.
go.
House Bill 1168 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the election of members of the Board of Education of Turner County, approved.
Slow go.
House Bill 1169 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Turner County, approved August
Slow
18th.
go.
House Bill 1170 by Representatives Taylor of the 173rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to creating the Board of Education Board of Commissioners of Thomas County, approved December 21st,
Slow go.
House Bill 1171 by Representatives Dickey of the 140th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to reconstitute the Board of Education of Monroe County, Georgia, approved
Slow go.
February. House Bill 1172 by Representatives Dickey of the 140th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to create the Board of Commissioners of Roads and Revenues for the County of Monroe.
Slow go.
House Bill 1173 by Representative Belton of the 112th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Morgan County, approved March 22nd.
Slow go.
House Bill 1174 by Representative Belton of the 112th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of
Slow
Morgan
go.
County. House Bill 1190 by Representative Scroggins of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the Board of Education of Bartow County, approved March 30th, 1987.
Slow go.
House Bill 1191 by Representative Smith of the 18th, a bill to be entitled an act to authorize the municipal court of the city of Bremen to charge a technology
Slow
fee.
go.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 435 do pass. Also, Mr. President, a notice of minority report has been filed on this Senate Bill 435. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 456 do pass. Senate Bill 403 do pass. Also, a notice of a minority report has been filed on Senate Bill 456. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 331 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 360 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 469 do pass by substitute and Senate Resolution 345 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harper of the 7th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 1118 do pass. House Bill 1143 do pass. House Bill 1032 do pass. House Bill 1123 do pass. House Bill 1129 do pass. Senate Bill 453 do pass. House Bill 1108 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 457 do pass. Senate Bill 458 do pass. House Bill 1020 do pass. House Bill 1033 do pass. House Bill 1070 do pass. House Bill 1071 do pass. House Bill 1072 do pass. House Bill 1077 do pass. House Bill 1078 do pass. House Bill 1079 do pass. House Bill 1080 do pass. House Bill 1104 do pass. House Bill 1105 do pass. House Bill 1106 do pass. House Bill 1111 do pass. House Bill 1112 do pass. House Bill 1113 do pass. House Bill 1116 do pass. House Bill 1117 do pass. House Bill 1125 do pass. House Bill 1139 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 991 do pass. House Bill 873 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 316 by Senator Innovatarte of the 31st and others. Stalking. A person 18 years old or older who commits the offense of stalking against a minor shall be guilty of a high and aggravated misdemeanor to provide. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, it's now time for a morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Don't break your leg over there. Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent that you excuse the following senators for business inside the Capitol: 52, 16, 37, 48, and 38. I got that.
You almost
50
reached
seconds.
your constitutional limit there. Chair without objection, the senators from the 52nd, 16th, 37th, 48th, and 38th are excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th.
Good morning, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. The chair recognizes the distinguished senator from Perry, Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 16th for business outside the Capitol.
We'll excuse him twice. Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th. Chair does not see the senator from the 9th. Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the A switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for a morning devotional. And I'd ask that all senators take your seats. All senators take your seats and cease all audible conversations. Ask that our distinguished doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. Chair, I'd like to recognize the senator from the 41st to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Good morning. Let us begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, and to the principles which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Well, good morning. I rise today not to be your preacher of the day, but instead to introduce the chaplain of the day. Today, I have the great privilege of introducing the Reverend Dennis Patterson, who serves as the head pastor of Holy Cross Episcopal Church in Decatur, Georgia. Not only is he a constituent of mine, but he is also a dear friend. And so Dennis hails from Virginia, but has made home here in Georgia for the last 10 years or so, serving in a number of congregations that continue to do good work for those who are in most need of service. Dennis's wife's name is Monica, and he has two beautiful children who attend the museum school, one of our best schools in DeKalb County. So it's my great honor and privilege to introduce to you all Reverend Dennis Patterson.
Thank you, Kim, and good morning. And thank you for having me. He is a product of the Oakland City area of Atlanta, a philanthropist in his own right, committing money to his community. His album sales, they rival the likes of Paul McCartney and Prince. He is a trap rapper, Lil Baby. And for the purposes of this conversation, he is a voice crying out from the wilderness. In a recent interview, he says, "I come from what they call the trap. And it's really a trap, and that's why they call it a trap. You're trapped because you don't know a lot of stuff. You only know what goes on in the trap. So for these 4 years, since I have been outside the trap, I am in a new world now. It's like if I knew any of this a long time ago, I could have gone a whole lot of different routes. The trap, that place where resources are low and voices are silent and ignored. The trap, where opportunities are hard to see and come by. The trap, where exposure to resources are few, where dreams are clouded and deferred because of their current reality, where the sidewalks reek of urine and the poison that is sold at the corner stores, where there is no zip code and envy. The trap is those places and conditions that don't allow you to see another way, to get out of your comfort zone, to see outside of your present, that does not allow you to see the world, as Baby put it. In his native slang drawl, he explains his journey and at the same time embodies the hopes and the dreams of so many victims that are left in the trap. Even still, he was strong enough to go against everything that the world showed him, to go out and be discovered. It seems like a modern-day miracle to be curious enough to leave the comforts of your normal reality, however tough it may be, and to go out into the world and to be found. I have, and we can learn a lot from a 20-year-old kid from Oakland City, Atlanta. If we're real with ourselves, we know that there are people all over the world that live trapped. The trap of being powerful, or the trap of being powerless. The trap of being poor, or the trap of being rich. The trap of having an education, or the trap of being uneducated, the trap of being female, and the trap of being male, and the list goes on and on and on. But God's purpose in our life is to free us from our traps. God is a God that specializes in the trap, to tear down the walls that separate us, to stretch our narrow understandings of what it means to be community, to ignite us, to ignite our curiosity, a curiosity that allows us to heal and to grow and to succeed. But most important, it allows us to be found by God, to be curious enough to leave the comforts of our lives. One of my favorite scenes in the Bible is of Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a Pharisee and a Sanhedrin. He was a legal expert and a judge. He had everything to lose: his relationship, his status. He might have become the pariah of the area. He ran the risk of being talked about, but that didn't stop him. Being moved by the Spirit to know more about this Jesus guy, he arranged to meet him at night to get clarity about that which he did not understand. He asked questions and he engaged these teachings in a time where these teachings were foreign to him. You see, to engage Jesus is to lose yourself and to be found. If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Nicodemus, once a stranger to Jesus, became a neighbor and assisted him in Jesus' burial. I was told a story one time, real quick. It was a story about hide and go seek. Many of you have played it, or your kids or grandkids have played it. There was a group of kids, and they were playing hide and go seek. And you know, the person goes up to the tree, and they count 1, 2, 3 to 50 or 100 or whatever they count to. The other kids scattered, and they went and hid. And there was this one kid who found the perfect spot. He found a spot up under the porch where he could see everyone. But he thought to himself, as he was looking at it, he says, they will never find me here. And so he watched as the person who was it went and tried to catch the others. One made it back to base safe. The other made it back to base safe. He started feeling good about himself. He said, they will never find me here. And he kept watching. He could see them. And another one made it back to base. He was the last one. He said, they will never find me here. And then it hit him. They will never find me here. So then he began to stick out his hand. He would come out and then go back. And then finally the person that was it saw him and ran to him and tagged him. What did that little boy under the porch, what did he want? What do we all want? Let us be curious enough to be found by God and be in relationships with others. Let us pray. Almighty God, who has given us good land for our heritage, we humbly beseech thee that we may prove ourselves to be mindful of thy favor and glad to do thy will. Bless our land with honorable industry, sound learning, and pure manners. Save us from violence and discord, confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil way. Defend our liberties and fashion into one united people the multitude brought hither out of many kindreds and tongues. Endue with the spirit of wisdom those whom in thy name we entrust the authority of thy government, that there may be justice and peace at home, and that through the obedience to thy law we may show forth thy praise among thy nations of the earth. In time of prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness. And in the day of trouble, suffer not our trust to fail in thee. All this we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
All right, the Senate will come back to order. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes his good friend, the senator from Cobb County, from the 32nd, for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope that you all have noticed on your desk the goodie bags that came from the Dental Hygienists Association. Governor Kemp has named Thursday, February 10th as Dental Hygiene Appreciation Day, and the Hygienists Association is here. They, across Georgia, give their time and effort to provide oral health care to individuals of need, including children, senior citizens, low-income individuals, and individuals with disabilities. They work in private dental offices and also public health facilities. They also work with many other organizations such as Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, Voices for Children, CoAge, and the Georgia Oral Health Coalition. Please join me in thanking the Georgia Dental Hygienists Association and all of Georgia's licensed dental hygienists for their professionalism and expertise in working to improve the oral health of all Georgians. Any dental hygienists in the gallery? All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the Majority Whip for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning, Senators. It's great to be with y'all. We have some guests in the building today from CASA. We have a resolution honoring CASA this year, and they're here today to be working throughout the House and the Senate chambers. You'll be seeing them in your offices later today. Last year, over 2,700 CASA's caring, compassionate volunteers advocated for 10,000 children in our state's legal custody, providing each child with an impartial advocacy that nurtured hope, sought solutions, and protected their best interest. CASA volunteers play a critical role in ensuring that our children who experience abuse or neglect have opportunities to reach their full potential with the support of permanent connections to families. We recognize these CASA volunteers for giving their time and commend Georgia CASA and the local CASA organizations for maximizing resources and support through increased community involvement and awareness, local and state advocacy efforts, and a more coordinated, compassionate response to child victims and families in crisis. Today, we welcome a small group of CASA advocates to the Capitol who come to shed light into the critical issues facing our children that are in foster care. I hope if you see them or get a chance to visit with them, you will join me in thanking them for the service to Georgia's most vulnerable children. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I know that many of you are glad that the chamber is beginning to return to some sense of normalcy as well, and you know we have a full gallery. I want to recognize a couple of folks up front, up at the top right now. The first is a group from back home, Jeff Davis County. You know, they're in charge of the hospital down there, and when we passed the hospital tax credit, they were the number one or number two, depending on which list you would read, for hospital closures. They thought they were really in absolutely destitute shape a lot of the times. And the passage by the Lieutenant Governor of his bill and other things have made that hospital where it's actually profitable. It's so profitable now that it doesn't qualify for the rural hospital tax credit anymore. And I want to recognize them up top. Also some other folks from Appling County that are here. And on the same healthcare bent, I want to ask you to join me in welcoming medical students from the Medical College of Georgia's class of 2024, where my wife is also an alum. These MCG 3+ students are beginning their clerkships at the MCG Southwest campus, which is located in Albany. And today they're learning how legislation and health policy will impact the practice of medicine. So please join me in welcoming these future doctors and medical providers to the state capitol. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Chair recognizes the pro tem for a point of personal privilege.
I think the appropriations chairman wanted y'all to stand up. Stand up. There we go. Now give him a round of applause. There we go. Glad y'all are here. Thank you, Mr. President. Inflation's a real thing, and we're all suffering from it right now. We have a 39-year high in inflation. Some people like to call it Bidenflation. I'm not sure, but it's inflation. Inflation erodes the value of cash. It diminishes your ability and my ability to do business. I don't know if you've seen the news, but the Consumer Price Index registered at 7.5% annual gain in January. In January. We're looking at the highest inflation in nearly 40 years. And folks, it affects the way we do business. It affects your life. It affects your livelihood. It affects your family. Reagan said that Ronald Reagan said inflation is as violent as a mugger, as frightening as an armed robber, and as deadly as a hitman. That's what it does to our economy. Anybody who's lived through inflation and stagnation in that terrible process knows what I'm talking about. My wife and I got our first mortgage. It was in the teens, and we all paid those kind of rates. Inflation robs us of our opportunity to benefit from our hard-earned wages, and although it may look good on a bumper sticker, and it's great to talk about redistribution and regulation when you're on a college campus or in an ivory tower, but the fact of the matter, we're in the real world. We're in the real world. But here in the real world, we're seeing in real time what the Democratic leadership is doing about inflation. We need to see some action. We need to see it soon, and we need to see it immediately. Thank you, Mr. Inflation. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
I have no idea what just happened. I was down here. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, Georgia is ground zero for maternal deaths. The maternal mortality rate in Georgia in 2018 was higher than the national average, 27.7 versus 17.4 per 100,000 live births, respectively. But it also hides gross racial disparities. Between 2012 and 2014, the maternal mortality rate for non-Hispanic African-American women in Georgia was over 3 times the rate of other women. The United States saw a large increase in maternal mortality rates between 2018 and 2019 by 7 points for non-Hispanic African-American women, from 37.3% to 44.0% per 100,000 live births. In real terms, between 2012 and 2014, 60% of Georgia women who died of pregnancy-related reasons were African American. Georgia invariably ranks at the bottom 5 states for maternal mortality rate, and some years it ranks the last in our nation for outcomes among African American mothers. Most maternal deaths in Georgia are preventable. The maternal mortality, especially of concern for Medicaid providers and payers, since 2012 and 2015, 69% of patients who died were Medicaid recipients. Yesterday, we celebrated Midwife Day at the Capitol, direct entry midwives. And we should be about the business of expanding and the availability of services providers and providing options in the state. Direct entry midwives are great healthcare providers. We should make it legal so they can practice their profession in this state. Currently, 37 states recognize direct entry midwives. Georgia is one of the few that don't. Let's take time out, Georgia, and remember, to save lives, we need everybody on the battlefront. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege. Senator from the 14th is recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I'm standing today to honor and recognize Donald S. Conkey. Many of us know in the Bartow, Cherokee County, and other areas of Don Conkey. He's in the LDS Church, but he is a hard worker that had a social bent. He didn't really care about politics. He didn't really care about religion. He cared about people. And he passed away at the age of 94, and I'd ask for just a moment of silence for his family.
Senator has asked us to rise for a moment of silence.
Amen. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman. Must be playing a trick on him again. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise to share some history, some Georgia history, some Georgia black history, but overwhelmingly Georgia history. Henry McNeil Turner served in our House of Representatives. He was born free in South Carolina, a black American, and he was appointed by Abraham Lincoln as the first black chaplain in the Union Army. After the Civil War, he settled in Macon, Georgia's 5th largest city, where he was elected to the legislature. And as a gesture of goodwill, Henry McNeil Turner, a pastor, pushed to restore voting rights to ex-Confederates. Now, this is our history. This is our state's history. But that was not to garner him any friends in the long run, because he was one of the 33 new black state legislators elected in Georgia in 1868, a revolutionary change in the South following 250 years of slavery. 800,000 new black voters had been registered across the region. The share of black male Southerners who were eligible to vote skyrocketed from 0.5% to 80.5% within 2 years. These black legislators had helped to write a new state constitution for Georgia, guaranteeing voting rights for former slaves, leading Georgia back into the Union. But I want you to know that just 2 months after the 14th Amendment granted full citizenship rights to black Americans, Georgia's white-dominated legislature introduced a bill to expel these duly elected black legislators, arguing that the state's constitution protected their right to vote but not to hold office. The governor, during the Confederacy years, Joe Brown, said, "When you confer upon the Negroes the right to hold office, you bring both Congress and the Republican Party into odium in this state." So on September 3rd, Henry McNeil Turner rose to speak in the Georgia House of Representatives to fight for his political survival as one of 33 black state legislators that were being ousted. He was truly shocked. He was truly shocked. Turner's passionate speech would become a rallying cry for the civil rights movement a century later. "Am I a man?" he asked. "If I am such, I claim the rights of a man. Am I not a man because I happen to be of a darker hue than honorable gentlemen around me?" His pleas went unheeded. The legislature voted to expel the black lawmakers right here in Georgia. And they weren't even allowed to participate in the vote, although they were elected legislators. And soon, Turner was getting death threats from the Ku Klux Klan. And the Weekly Sun in Columbus, Georgia said, "We should neither be seized with astonishment or regret if he's going to be lynched." And 2 weeks later, one of the ousted legislators led a march in Camilla, tiny little town we all know of in southwest Georgia, and white residents opened fire, killing a dozen or more of the mostly black marchers. So Reconstruction all but ended in Georgia almost as soon as it began. We know this history, don't we? We understand its implications. Outraged Republicans in Washington attempted to reinstate it, put the state back under military rule, purging ex-Confederates from the legislature and giving black members their seats back. But in the 1870 election, Georgia's white majority united to reclaim the state and vote out the black members, backed by KKK violence that kept many black people from the polls. Turner wrote to Massachusetts Senator Sumner, he said, "There is not language in the vocabulary of hell strong enough to portray the outrages that have been perpetrated." U.S. Senator Benjamin Hill said, "The Southern whites will never consent to the government of a Negro. Never." So Georgia, our state, became the blueprint for how white supremacy would be restored throughout the South. So as we lift up the life and leadership of Henry McNeil Turner, fast forward 150 years later, another Georgia legislator representing Macon rose to defend the rights Turner had fought for. And like Turner, Democratic State Senator David Lucas came in 1974 at just 24 and was the first black member of the legislature to represent Macon since Reconstruction. And Senator Lucas, now 71, has come regularly to this podium to speak out against voter suppression and sound the warning, let us not go backward. This is part of our history. Look at it, learn from it, and understand that we still live with the impact of those decisions that were made 1.5 centuries ago. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a point of personal privilege. Welcome back to the chamber, Senator from the 53rd. Somebody pushed your button while you were out.
I can yield my time to him, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind everybody today that upon adjournment in room 341, we'll have a joint meeting of the Mental Health Caucus of the House and Senate. Senator from the 41st is joining me in helping lead this caucus. Yes, you are a member of the caucus. You're invited to lunch. The goal of this is to go and actually learn about some of the issues floating around this building, dealing with mental health and the bills that are coming across in both chambers. Chance to kind of get ahead on that. We have some guest speakers today. So upon adjournment, go grab a lunch in 341. Let's talk about mental health issues in our state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 15th, the Dean of the Senate, for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to rise at this time to honor the life of Robina Flakes. Mrs. Flakes was the wife of the Reverend J.H. Flakes in Columbus, Georgia, and the son of Reverend J.H. Flakes III. And she epitomizes the women of that era who, like Coretta Scott King and many, many others who were pillars of the community and served their community very well in education, and was a civil rights icon in her own right in Columbus, Georgia. So I just want to note the passing of this great lady, Columbus, Georgia, and she'll be funeralized on Saturday. So I just ask you to, if you would, give us a moment of silence in honor of Robina Flakes, Columbus, Georgia, and her.
Senator has asked for us all to rise and to offer up a moment of silence.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come to the well today since this is Black History Month, to recognize a wonderful lady. A lady that, her name is Deborah Marshall. She was born, she was raised, she was educated, she lived, she worked, and went to be with the Lord in Columbia County. Debbie was married to Lee Marshall for 28 years. Beautiful marriage. They had 3 beautiful children. She was graduated from Harlem High School, class of '81. And in 1984, she was hired by the Board of Elections in Columbia County. And then at 2000, she became the director of the Board of Elections until she resigned in 2012. She passed away at a young age of 49. But this beautiful lady was our director of the Board of Elections until 2012, and she went on to be with the Lord. She had a brain tumor, and she is a lady that, if you ever had met her, she had the most wonderful smile, and she never met a stranger. But I'm here to represent Ms. Deborah Marshall. Thank you.
Thank you for those good words. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st to introduce to us the doctor of the day and a point of personal privilege. That's why I called on you last. I thought you were doing the doctor of the day, so feel free to do both real quick. Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'll do both. First, this morning in the Sloppy Floyd building, we celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the REACH Foundation, and I don't know how familiar you are with that. Governor Deal established the REACH program 10 years ago, and it's in all 159 counties are participating in this. And I will tell you, we are seeing positive outcomes of these students in their lives when they go through this program. They're getting jobs, and they're really doing well. We had a valedictorian this morning from her high school that is now at Georgia State, studying computer coding. So we've really made a huge impact. And on a personal note, I just want to thank my wife, Chantel. She has served on this board since the day it started, and she's rolling off. And I just want to personally thank her for her service to the board, but more importantly, to the students in our state. With that, Mr. President, before I yield the well, I'll introduce the doctor of the day. The doctor of the day is Dr. Patel. He participates in holistic medicine at Walmart Health and works as the value-based care lead. She has a value-based care applying VBC principles in everything from direct patient care to program development for Walmart Health and Walmart Social Health Shared Value Network. Dr. Patel attained her master's in healthcare delivery sciences from Dartmouth while simultaneously completing a fellowship in health innovation and leadership and primary care at Harkin Health. She's board certified with the American Board of Family Medicine and a member of the American Academy of Family Physicians, as well as the Georgia Academy of Family Physicians. She serves as chief resident while at the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, one of the oldest and largest family medicine residency programs in the nation. As co-founder of Lotus, she seeks to use technology to optimize the quality of life for those with disabilities and to augment the lives of those who do not. She strongly believes that everyone needs the chance to be their best through Lotus and hopes to support equitable opportunities for them. In her spare time, you'll find Dr. Patel engaged with anything that holds her curiosity, from learning an instrument to engaging in a new sport. Above all, she prefers spending time with her loved ones in nature. Please welcome and thank Dr. Patel for being Doctor of the Day. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well. All right, we're going to move along with our business. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? The chair hears none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? Chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, on this consent calendar, we have two objections. The first is an objection filed by Senator Jones of the 22nd, Parent of the 42nd, and Butler of the 55th on Senate Bill 457. And on Senate Bill 458, again, an objection filed by Senator Jones of the 22nd, Parent of the 42nd, and Butler of the 55th.
All right, those two will be removed from this consent calendar and moved over to the contested calendar, which will become the next item of business when we move through these local consent calendars. There is objection to the following bills, and they are removed: Senate Bill 457 and Senate Bill 458. Is there objection agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills remaining on the local consent calendar? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. The question is on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 26th rise? He waves. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. You now have a supplemental consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar, supplemental calendar?
Mr. President, there is an objection filed on House Bill 873 by Senator Dixon of the 45th, Senator Gooch of the 51st, and Senator Albers of the 56th.
All right, there is objection to House Bill 873, and that bill will be removed from the supplemental local consent calendar. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the remaining bills on the supplemental local consent calendar? For what purpose does the senator from the 26th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that in Senate Bill 453, commissioners in Macon, Georgia decided to go into another commissioner's district and did not even talk to him about it or anything, but came to that board meeting with a 5-1 vote to pass it? Which meant that that commissioner had not, if that commissioner's line had not been drawn into the other commissioner's district, they would have been out of office because they would no longer be in their district.
The senator speaks with great passion, and the chair reminds the chamber that that vote was taken on the previous consent calendar. Not on this one. That was voted on the previous local consent calendar. There is objection to House Bill 873, and that bill is being removed from this supplemental local consent calendar. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the supplemental local consent calendar? Mouthful. Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. The questions on the passage of the bills on the supplemental local consent calendar. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the supplemental local consent calendar, the yeas are 53, the nays are 1, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. All right, now we're going to take up the local contested calendar, which has 3 bills that have been removed from both local consent calendars. Just as a reminder, there's a limited debate of 10 minutes each side to each of the measures. The first measure we'll take is House Bill 873. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 873, a bill by Representatives Rich of the 97th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Gwinnett County and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senator Merritt of the 9th District and others offer the following substitute to House Bill 873, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Gwinnett County and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to the substitute.
Good morning, members. The substitute that we have is our original Board of Commission map that we went through the proper process of town halls, engaging our public, asking our Board of Commissioners to draft the map, and that is the map, that is what the supplement is. HB 873 was over at the House. Our original map was changed. We are reversing that back to our original map, and that is what this supplement does. The Gwinnett County Board of Commissioners unanimously adopted the attached map during the January 4th, 2020 general business meeting. It is a map that it has gone through the redistricting town halls, and it was hosted by each commissioner, and that was over months from November and December. Those maps indicated that the public was interested in voting precincts, keeping cities relatively together, and just minimal movement. And that's the map that we agreed upon. We did vote on this map in our local delegation process. The senator from the 45th was there as well during the town halls. He was there when we voted for the map. He did not vote for the map, I will say that, but the majority of the delegation did. And this was the original BOC map that went through the proper channels. So I'm asking that that map, the map we have before us on the supplement, be the map that is considered today. Just based truly on that we have gone through our local process the right way. The map that Representative Rich did not go through any vetting process. It was not discussed in our local delegation. She did engage our Board of Commissioners, but we asked during our town halls back in November and during our joint town halls that if there were to be any changes to our proposed original map, that she submit those changes. Both she and Representative Efstration had an opportunity to do that. They did not submit any changes, and the changes that were submitted were done in a matter of 3 days once we presented our map to the General Assembly on the House side. So my point is, we went through a process to get the original Board of Commissioner proposals. We worked on that for months. We engaged the community. We had the town halls, on both bipartisan town halls, so everyone was aware of the map that we proposed and voted out. And in a matter of 3 days, the map was changed. We were not aware of the changes. We had not talked about the changes, nor did we engage the public in those changes. So I'm asking today that you vote in favor of the supplement. It is the map that the people want. Any questions?
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th with a question. To your right.
Senator, do you yield?
Yes.
So isn't it true that in the process of creating the original maps for the Gwinnett Board of Commission, we went through an unprecedented amount of soliciting community feedback and the customary means of going through the delegation process, including 5 open public town halls to solicit feedback from the entirety of Gwinnett County, soliciting feedback from the Board of Commission itself, which is intimately affected by these maps, having 2 open town hall meetings with the bicameral Gwinnett delegation, and voting through the delegation on these maps, in which the original map was voted out by a majority of the delegation.
The senator knows the way where she speaks.
And isn't it also true that in rejecting this process, which really went far above and beyond what most county delegations do in the interest of an open and transparent process, that to reject the original maps and to adopt the House version of these maps, which was adopted with, as you noted, no community feedback at the last minute and without a majority of the delegation voting on it, would be a stunning abrogation of the custom of majority rule in the democratic process?
The senator knows what she speaks.
Thank you.
I yield well.
You had no more questions. The in favor of the substitute has 5 remaining minutes. Is any senator wish to speak against the measure? Chair recognizes. Before I recognize you, I want to recognize a former member that's with us in the chamber, Mitch Seaball. I almost called you Seagull. Mitch Seaball is with us. Thank you for being with us. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, I urge you to vote no to the substitute to House Bill 873. It has not gone through the vetting process. We simply don't know what that map looks like. I did not learn of this substitute until this morning. The underlying bill has gone through the vetting process. It's gone through the House committees. It's been passed off the House floor and sent over here to us. So again, I urge you to vote no to the substitute. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
Oh, he yielded the well.
You had your button pushed. She waves. Did you say you want to go to the well? Okay, you had to press to speak, not to come to the front. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to the measure.
I know, well, I thought he was going to stay and take questions. Sorry. All right. This will be short. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out that the substitute that is being presented are the original maps. Again, I want to restate, these were the original maps that were voted out of a full Gwinnett County delegation meeting prior to being dropped on the House side. So these substitutes have been seen by all members of the Gwinnett delegation. They have been voted out by a majority of the Gwinnett delegation. These are the maps that we are presenting. That is the substitute. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll take any questions.
You have no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? There is objection. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. All those in favor of adoption of the committee substitute vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the committee substitute, the yeas are 22, the nays are 33, and the committee substitute has failed. We will now take up the underlying measure. The question is on the adoption of the bill. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State
Mr.
your inquiry.
President, isn't it true that voting yes on this subverts the majority will of the county delegation?
That's for each and every member to decide on their own. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 33, the nays are 22, and this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. All right, we'll now take up Senate Bill 457. Senate Bill 457. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 457 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the consolidation of Richmond County and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
As a reminder, 10 minutes of debate on each side. The chair will recognize the senator from the 23rd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today with a scratchy throat, but to urge your support for Senate Bill 457. This is a local redistricting bill that has gone through a significant journey. I want to just quickly outline how we got to today. In July of last year, the ad hoc committee for Augusta Richmond redistricting began their meetings. On August the 18th, they adopted a set of principles, and those principles suggested a series of criteria that they should consider. In September of last year, September the 15th, they received an initial draft of a district map that basically was drawn by a new staff member in the Legislative Reapportionment and Redistricting Office, and it was a numbers map. It strictly dealt with equalization of individuals from district to district. There was unfortunately no opportunity for senior staff to provide a review of that before it was submitted to the committee, and that map broke a number of their own guidelines. So regrettably, that map, without the knowledge of the individual who drew it, it broke neighborhoods. It broke neighborhoods. It ignored boundaries. It created 13 split precincts. The delegation, by the way, there are 8 members of the Richmond Augusta delegation, 5 in the House, 3 in the Senate. Some of us recognized that there was an opportunity to work with that group, and in November, a meeting between the senator from the 22nd, the representative from the 124th, and myself met with the director of the Legislative Office of Redistricting and Reapportionment and asked that she provide an alternative map that really did 3 things. It must be fully compliant with all legal requirements. It should minimize the number of precinct splits, and it should keep communities of interest and neighborhoods together and whole as much as possible. And they did that. And the senator from the 22nd took that proposal. He took it to the Augusta Richmond County ad hoc committee on redistricting, and they declined to consider it. So they were not willing to work with the good senator, nor the delegation in this area. If you fast forward a bit, on the 17th, the study committee was presented with 3 options that were developed by the Augusta-Richmond Board of Elections, and the committee declined to review those maps. And finally, on the 22nd, the Monday before Thanksgiving, after 20 minutes of discussion, they adopted the initial map that had no consideration for public input or for concerns about neighborhoods, and it was a split vote. It was nowhere close to unanimous. That then moved to December, and the Augusta-Richmond Commission and the school board both adopted the proposal that came out of the study committee on a 6th floor vote. And then in January the 6th, the delegation met with the commission. And those of us who had concerns communicated that we could not support their recommendation, and we asked them to work with us repeatedly. They never chose to engage. So from January the 7th to January the 25th, I made multiple efforts. Other members of the delegation made multiple efforts and reached out to the school board and to the county commission. They chose not to engage. On the 26th of January, the delegation met as a whole. We were missing, I think, 1 member. But both Democrats, Republicans, House, and Senate, we met with the Legislative Redistricting Office, and we discussed our options, and we asked our colleagues to work with us in resolving concerns. They chose to decline. So, on January 31st, Senator from the 24th, and I developed a proposal which is the exact map we offered on November the 10th. And that's what you have before you. You have a map that instead of splitting 13 precincts, splits 2. You have a map that keeps neighborhoods and historic neighborhoods together. You have a map that represents Richmond and Augusta. It is fully compliant with all laws, all regulations, all numbers. It maintains virtually every existing boundary, and it protects as many neighborhoods as possible. So today, I ask for your favorable consideration of SB 457. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd with a question.
Senator Yield.
To my good friend from the 22nd, absolutely.
Was this particular map voted on by any body in Richmond County, such as the Ad Hoc Committee or the Richmond County Board of Education or the Richmond County Commission?
They chose not to consider it, Senator, and they could have if they had allowed it to be vetted. They ignored our request, your request, Senator, and my request to consider this map.
Was Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not accurate that I was actually on the Ad Hoc Committee?
You were indeed, and that was why we asked you to be the vehicle for which we communicated this option.
And is it not accurate that I also stated that this map did not comply with the Voting Rights Act?
That was your opinion, Senator, and I respect that. However, I'm not an attorney. I'm certainly not an elections attorney. We have had this map fully reviewed by both in-house and outside counsel, and we're confident that it fully meets the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of Georgia, the Voting Rights Act, and 14th Amendment.
And Senator Further Yield?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
The senator's not trying to imply that there's any type of agreement to move forward on this map, are you?
There was no agreement on the map by the delegation, by the study committee, by the commission, or the school board. We offered repeatedly to engage and resolve our concerns. Repeatedly, those offers were declined.
And with the Senator Further Yield for one last question. When you say we offer repeatedly, who manifests that we?
Manifest that. Senator from the 24th, myself, and the House member from, can't name names, the House member that represents Columbia and Richmond counties.
Okay, thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th with a question.
44.
She waves. You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to this measure, and will also kind of put some things in perspective, which is very important. Neither one of these measures, and I'll basically the same map, even though I will possibly come back up on 458 too, but neither of these measures actually went through what's called the ad hoc committee, the commission, or the school board, and that's a process that had to take place. The ad hoc committee had various public meetings. Also, they had meetings themselves where they actually discussed this particular legislation, talking about the redistricting legislation. There is a bill that was passed through the ad hoc committee, that was passed through the Richmond County Commission, that was passed through the school board, which is HB 1120 and HB 1121, which is now sitting in the House. That bill is the bill that actually has passed the muster of the elected officials of Augusta Richmond County. So we have heard reasons to be opposed to this, so let's kind of dig into these reasons. Number one, we were told about a junior staffer that wrote this particular legislation. Well, I also have the guidelines that were taking place, and I can tell you this, there was nothing on there about the fact that Augusta Richmond County should ignore this particular map that was drawn, the particular map that was voted on, because of some junior staffer that supposedly did this. Number one, I find it very offensive to actually throw our state employees under the bus like that. But number two, it would have been nice to know if there's supposedly the junior staffers were running around drawing maps and they had no business doing it, and we were relying on that. Those are maps that elected officials in Richmond County relied on. So I would tell everybody who's in this particular chamber, find out who actually drew your map, because apparently, according to the senator from the 23rd and the 24th and the other House member, those maps are null and void because of some junior staffer supposedly that drew it, although we knew nothing about a supposed junior staffer that did that. Secondly, we hear about guidelines that supposedly were not followed. It's very true about the boundaries, but let me tell you about where that line is within the guidelines. That is on the 5th line, and it specifically states that basically the ad hoc committee should try to deal with certain boundaries. But you know what's number two? Number two is that it has to comply with the Voting Rights Act. That's what's first. That basically is the main point of all of this. It must comply with the Voting Rights Act. That's the key. So we keep talking about all these guidelines as though the number one guideline was that you could not split precincts or you could not split neighborhoods. And that is something that this body attempted to deal with. But their number one function had to be to advise, to basically comply with the Voting Rights Act. And if that organization, if that ad hoc committee, if the county commission of Richmond County, if the school board in Richmond County made a determination that they could not abide by the Voting Rights Act, the constitutional mandate that exists, without basically going to this particular map, that is their purview and that is their right, and it is a correct right because it goes underneath the Constitution. Another issue has been that there may have been complaints that have been levied. Well, the fact of the matter is there were complaints that were levied, but the fact of the matter is most of the complaints that were levied, I represent those particular persons. That's myself. The senator from the 23rd represents one of those precincts. One of the contested areas, what we call District 3. He represents one precinct in that. The major contested areas is I represent. And that means that I have to present that case to those particular constituents. I have to take that heat if there's going to be any heat that takes place. That is my role as elected official. I did not seek any type of savior to come in and draw new maps. So that also is basically doesn't mean anything. And then also I would say, what is the magic number on complaints? Because I would dare say that whether it's the senator from the 23rd or the 24th who represents multiple counties, that they have had complaints from other counties. And I would love to know exactly, did those complaints spur them to write a whole new map? That's going to be very interesting because eventually this will go to court and we'll have to find out. What is the magic number? Give me the case law that says if I get 50 complaints, I can then go draw my own map. If I get 100 complaints, I can go draw my own map. Is it 1 or 2? I guess we will find out soon enough. So here's the situation. Here's the bare bones of it all. And it's unfortunate. It's extremely unfortunate. And you guys know me that I don't come here and talk about racial issues, but we're here. The fact of the matter is the ad hoc committee is majority African American. That's a fact. The fact of the matter is the county commission is majority African American. Facts. The fact of the matter is the school board is majority African American. Facts. The fact of the matter is that they voted in a democratic elected way and did the map that is HB 1120. Those are facts that exist. Other facts that exist that are very key. When you look at the two maps, there are 23 precincts that are affected. And what I mean by affected is this. There's 23 precincts and there's 20 persons in 23 precincts that when this map passed out through those particular bodies, they said, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is my new district. Map is there, it's been printed in the paper, it's been on the news. We now have a bill that persons can go to. They sat there and said, this is my map. Out of those 23 precincts, the new map affects 17 African American precincts. Those persons have no idea now where they were going to be because this map did not go through any type of vetting process. Those are facts. Only six precincts are not African American precincts. Those are facts, and I have the numbers here. And I'll also present something else to you. The senator from the 23rd represents 12 precincts, and I have them. Be glad to share them. Out of those 12 precincts, between the map that he is now presenting and the map that is in the House, out of those 12 precincts, those persons stayed. In other words, the map that's in the House, let's say you have precinct 608, for instance, it's in Senator 23rd 608. They're not moving. The 12 precincts that he represents doesn't move. All the precincts that move are represented by the senator from the 22nd. We did not ask for this. And I hate to say that it's unfortunate that we're in this particular position. It really is. The fact of the matter is this went through a democratic process. And as far as any type of going and discussing things, yes, I absolutely said, well, let's see if we can come up with something else. But we couldn't because it couldn't satisfy the Voting Rights Act. And he said, that's my opinion. That's fine. Because guess what? Legal counsels all over this country have opinions, and they get overturned all the time. At the end of the day, we'll find out through a court of law where the opinion actually lies. But yes, it is my opinion that it doesn't satisfy the Voting Rights Act, and why not? Because that contested district takes it from a majority African-American district to a majority white district. That is what it is. That cannot happen. And I'm not talking about by 1 percentage point. It's basically a 5-point swing. And there's no way that you can basically justify that under the Constitution. And not only does it do that, it also takes what we call District 8 and also makes that a vote dilution claim because the African American vote is diluted there also. Those are just numerical facts that exist. And so whether the map is a perfect map or not a perfect map, it went through the process. It's a democratic process. At some point in time, we have to start respecting African-American elected officials, and when they do the process and say that we're going to respect it, and that's what we're going to do. This was a total disrespect of it. It's a total trope, quite frankly, when you start talking about persons didn't do work or persons didn't take their time to do things. These are the same type of tropes that we've had throughout history when it comes to African-American leadership, and that is also a fact that we will discuss very thoroughly when we get to this critical race theory nonsense. So with that, Mr. President, I will accept any questions if I have time.
You have questions, Senator.
Thank you.
I recognize the Senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Absolutely.
Is it not true, Senator, that the study committee made 0 changes to the initial map that was proposed?
That's absolutely true because that was a determination that they did after 5 maps. If you remember correctly, they actually did 3 other plans. So they had the original plan and they looked at 3 others. And that's a decision that they made. It's not a decision for any one person to unilaterally determine that they made the wrong decision.
Is it not true, Senator, that the committee never realistically considered any alternative
Absolutely,
to the first
that's not
draft?
true. That is not true. That is not true. That's absolutely
they
not
didn't
true.
even give the map that you and I and the representative from the 128th a hearing, a review.
There was no
Is that not
map.
true?
Senator, there was no map that we drew. Let's understand. And first of all, we're really not supposed to have conversations like this, but I would go into it. We met and we asked her to draw a map. And I have the email where I sent that to our Board of Elections and said, I actually have not really examined this, but this is something else we may look at. I had not examined it as far as the Voting Rights Act is concerned. And you know, as soon as I did, you can accept my opinion or not, I said this does not withstand constitutional muster, and you know that's exactly what happened. And I actually regret that we have to have these conversations. We're not supposed to have conversations that we have individually with each other. Now, either stand on what the facts are or not.
Is it not true, Senator, that the district in question, District 3, is not a minority district? It's not a majority minority
It
district.
absolutely is, because what you're getting at is the fact that it's 46% under the current map, and I believe the white population is about 40%, but you also have others and others that have to be counted. But as far as the black-white numbers, it is majority African-American in that sense.
Senator, bring it to a close. Your time has
Thank you.
expired.
What this map did, what your map did was take that 46% to 40%. Thank you.
Does any member request to speak in favor of the bill? Hearing none, the debate is closed. Oh, we have Senator Jackson wants to take, in favor of the bill? Okay. The time has expired for speaking in favor of the bill. Favor of the bill. I'm not speaking in favor of the bill. Okay. The 10 minutes have expired to speak in favor of the bill. Is that correct? Time has expired for those speaking against the bill. Okay. Does anyone want to speak in favor of the bill? Time has expired for those who want to speak against the bill. Does anyone care to speak in favor of the bill? Hearing none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? For what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I move that we recommit Senate Bill 457.
The motion is in order. Do we have a second? Okay. Stand by. The senator from the second is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against Senate Bill 457. We often speak about federal government intrusion. We often speak about federal government intrusion. We often get upset when our federal government intrude on our state. When we talk about when our feds put local regulations and policy that affects Georgia, we get upset in this body. And we talk about local control. Why we as a state, we need to have local control. And I'm sounding like some other people now when I talk about local control. But why do we impose our decisions on other folks when we boast about we as a state need to be about local control? We are elected to be the voices of our district and our constituents. That's our purpose, not to bully them, not to disrespect their decisions. We are elected to be their voice. And we're not doing it here in this bill. Many of us in this body was not involved in the intricate details and having town hall meetings when we came to the decision of school board meetings, when we talked about county commissioners meeting about redrawing our districts. We weren't involved in those town hall meetings and those discussions. We let the local people decide, and they drew maps. What we're saying is their hard work of our local leaders, they put into drawing these maps, that we don't honor your maps, that we don't honor your voice, that we don't care. And the work that you did don't mean anything. Is that really what we're here to do? We're here to be the voice of the people that sent us here, and they made a decision. They sent us maps, and we should take time out to honor them. Getting public input. Getting public input, that's what we're supposed to do when we draw maps. And we left that decision up to the people in Richmond County. We all know Christopher Gaskin. We often rail about him and his actions. You know, and he had a little flag, a flag with a bright yellow banner with an image of a hissing coiled snake standing over a patch of grass. And in these words is on that flag, "Don't tread on me." It's not my flag. But in this case, it's saying to the people of Richmond County, don't tread on me. We made local decisions for the governing our people when it comes to drawing maps. Give us the respect and the honor of our maps. Mr. President, I yield for questions.
Time has expired. Thank you, sir. Does anyone request to speak against the bill? Anyone else request to speak against the bill? All those in favor of the motion will vote the yea switch. Those opposed to the motion vote the nay switch. We need 5 requests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got it. Put it on the board. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All those who are in favor will vote the green switch. All those who are opposed will vote the red switch. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. Recognize the senator from the 23rd.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Sir.
This is a vote on the motion to recommit. Is that correct? Thank you, Mr.
Senator from the 2nd.
Is it not true that this is a vote for local control?
The gentleman knows of what he speaks. On the motion to commit, the yeas are 30. The yeas are 22. The nays are 32, and this bill has lost and been the motion be committed to committee. The motion fails. Is there objection to the agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote the yea switch. Those opposed, the nay switch. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. Recognize the senator from the 28th.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true I know of which I speak?
That is of considerable debate. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 32, the nays are 22. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is thereby passed. Mr. Secretary, if you'll read Senate Bill 458.
Senate Bill 458, a bill by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act regulating public instruction for the County of Richmond, approved August 23rd, 1872, as amended, particularly by an act approved April 8th, 2002, so as to change the description of the school board districts and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations recommend that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Okay. Recognize the senator from the 23rd to speak to the Bill 458.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. We've had the discussion on 457. This is the companion bill for the school board. I'd like to only address one point, and I appreciate the senator from the 2nd's passion about local control, and I share that. And I also appreciate the expectation that it would be handled on a local level. I would point out that the study committee indeed had multiple hearings. They accepted enormous amounts of input and then chose to ignore it. They did not adjust the map at all. They took an initial draft, and because it provided a certain opportunity, they pushed it forward, and they ignored the people of the community. HB 458 is an opportunity for us to hear and listen to and respond to the people from Augusta and Richmond County. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield for any questions.
No questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Recognize the senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm going to be brief too, but what are we doing? I mean, seriously, what are we doing? We are tearing this body apart across the hall. They're tearing that body apart. In the name of what? Being able to take local decisions out of the hands of duly elected officials? I've talked to a lot of y'all in this chamber, and one of the things and the themes that comes across is the fact that folks think that maybe things are a little too partisan, a little too divisive, right? A little too, you know, the heat is turned way up. And then we turn around and do this. You know, I'll just paraphrase what one of our brethren said to me one time, because I think it really does encapsulate exactly what's going on here. Basically, it was, we're in favor of local control as long as we control the locals. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Call upon the senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're witnessing several very concerning things. One is the failure of the process of local control, and the other one is much more concerning because what it really is a subversion of democracy. We're right back where we were last session. Again, these pieces of legislation that don't respect the elected officials from Gwinnett County or their representatives in the delegation, and processes that don't respect the work of the locals in Augusta, demonstrate that the local process is disrespected and it's broken, and more worrisome that we're right back to voter suppression, we're right back to gerrymandering. And again, that makes me think that there is a very worrisome and regrettable commitment from today's Republican Party to white minority rule. Things that I said last year, I'm going to tell you again. And that is, this state is diversifying incredibly rapidly. We're already a majority minority state. The only way to get and retain power in this new diverse Georgia is to win over people with the power of your ideas. It will not work to try to suppress votes and gerrymander your way into power for much longer. That time is rapidly coming to a close. So you may want to consider that in doing all of these things and taking all these actions, you alienate the very people whose votes you will need to retain or to recapture power in this great state. Let me mention one more thing. I represented DeKalb County down here. This is my 8th year in the 8th session in the Senate. I also did 2 years in the House. I've been talking a lot to our freshman Gwinnett delegates who are utterly shocked and disturbed at how the fact of their election by the people of Gwinnett County just doesn't matter down here. Just doesn't matter at all. And it's brought back for me some really painful memories of how I was treated as a freshman from DeKalb County, a freshman Democrat from DeKalb County. And this is what I want to mention and what I've told them. We dealt with this for years. I dealt with it for years. Until the last elected Republicans in DeKalb County were defeated by Democrats. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Call upon the senator recognize the senator from the 22nd.
Mr. President, I just wanted to make one quick point, and that is that the ad hoc committee, commission, Board of Education, they did not ignore anyone. They just made a decision that was different from the decision from Senator from the 23rd, the 24th, and others. That was all. There was not anyone ignoring anybody. And that's what we do as elected officials, make decisions all the time that are different from even our own constituents. None of us get 100% of the vote, but that's what we do. It's not a matter of ignoring. And I do think that this is actually a teachable moment. If we could have one day to see that these are the kind of statements that were made many times when African Americans were in elected office. They ignore us, they don't listen. I can show you throughout history, and we really shouldn't be using these kind of tropes, quite frankly, but it was not a matter of ignoring anyone. It was just a matter that they came to a different decision, and we should respect that decision. Thank you, and I yield the well.
Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. The senator, is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is in favor of the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is now ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote the yea switch. Those opposed, the nay switch. Mr. Secretary, if you would unlock the machines. And they're off. Senator from 36, you're recognized.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Why do you state your inquiry?
Isn't it true that a yes vote for this bill is a vote to subvert democracy? And isn't it further true that Georgia is watching, county after county, as we undermine democracy and take away local control. Is that not true?
The senator from the 36 expresses herself with deep passion. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 31, the nays are 22. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Recognize the senator from the 30th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sometimes they call me the majority leader. I ask for unanimous consent that all the local bills that were
Among other
passed today
things.
be immediately transmitted to the House.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Mr. Secretary, if you'll immediately transmit all bills. Thank you. Is there objection? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, if you'll transmit. Thank you. I recognize the majority leader, the distinguished senator from West Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that SB 361 be engrossed.
The senator from the 30th, the majority leader, has moved that this be engrossed. Is there objection? There is objection. I recognize the senator from the 30th to speak to his motion. He waves off. I recognize the senator from the 55th to speak against the motion. She waves off. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? All those in favor of the motion to engross will vote the yea switch. Those opposed will vote the nay switch. Mr. Secretary, if you unlock the machines.
On the motion to engross, the yeas are 32, the nays are 22. The motion has prevailed, and Senate Bill 361 is engrossed. We're now going to move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 231?
Senate Bill 231, a bill by Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to provide for a pilot program to allow for certain adults to enroll in charter schools that provide instruction only for individuals between ages 21 and 35 residing in this state who have not attained a high school diploma and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Second Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Education and Youth offered the following amendment to Senate Bill, substitute to Senate Bill 231, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to provide for a pilot program to allow certain adults to enroll in charter schools that provide instruction only for individuals between ages 21 and 35 residing in this state who have not attained a high school diploma, to provide for an exception to the maximum age of eligibility for enrollment, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st to speak to Senate Bill 231.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 231 is a bipartisan poverty reduction bill. Senate Bill 231 creates a pilot program for persons between the ages of 21 and 35 who have not graduated from high school to obtain a high school diploma to enable them to improve their life trajectory for themselves and their children. Based on a successful model called Excel Centers with 10 years of data demonstrating that program works and empowers people who have dropped out of high school to earn an accredited diploma and build necessary skills to further their education and find a better job. This bill will meet people exactly where they are and provide the necessary wrap services supports to help them overcome any obstacles that they may be facing that would prevent them from being successful at high school during this age. An example of wrap services provides counselors, coaches, child care assistants, transportation assistants, housing assistants, if needed, at no cost to the student and not paid for by the taxpayer. Obtaining a high school diploma prepares them for the next step, which may include a better job or career with better pay or seamless transitioning to a technical college, industry certification, apprenticeship, or other higher education opportunities. Through a public-private partnership, this bill would create an accredited public charter high school created exclusively for this purpose for those between the ages of 21 and 35. Georgians who are between the ages of 21 and 35 who have never graduated high school can attend. And if you remember last session, Senate Bill 204 by the senator from the 37th was an awesome start to address a lot of these issues. But this specific population, we don't provide as a state anything at this time. As implemented in Senate Bill 204, it's limited to ages between 16 and 21 who have already achieved 6 of the 9 required high school core classes and is limited to 5 communities. Just to give you an idea, there are 311,000 Georgians between the ages of 18 and 35 without a high school diploma. Senate Bill 231 is a very important piece of anti-poverty legislation based on a model proven effective in 5 states, which will empower Georgians to currently get out of where they're at in their lives to gain the necessary skills to enable them to improve their life trajectory and the lives of their children. This bill is being supported by small businesses across the state through the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the Georgia Chamber, and we've received a lot of support from the Latino community, including the Georgia Hispanic Chamber. With that, Mr. President, I'll take questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 231? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 277?
Senate Bill 277, a bill by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to carrying and possession of firearms, so as to extend the exemptions from weapons carry laws for certain court officials to include carrying inside of a courthouse and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the distinguished Rules Chairman. You still need help with your handkerchief in your pocket. To speak to the measure. Looks like a beach towel stuffed inside your pocket.
Thank you, Mr. President. My handkerchief is my wild side. So anyway, just thank you so much for noticing it and mentioning my decoration aspect to my being. So today I bring you an exciting bill. Now most of you are going to say, oh, it's just a gun bill. But it's not. This bill is related to many years ago that a few of us, like the senator from the 34th, senator from the 36th, the senator from 35th, and many others, and the senator from 55 and many others. We were here one morning in appropriations meeting, I believe, in room 341, and sirens was everywhere. It was early in the morning. They shut the Capitol down because Judge Barnes was just murdered by an inmate or somebody going through the process of our legal system, and shot a police officer in the courtroom and a police officer on the way out of the court, and threw an AJC reporter in the trunk. Now, I don't know if that was illegal or not, but just kidding. But it was a terrible day for us, a scary day. We didn't know where he had gone to. We found out later he fled to Gwinnett County, I believe, and the rest is kind of well known. Well, in the process, after that, we gave court officials the right to bear arms in court so they could feel safe and take care of things in case it got out of hand again. Well, we missed one segment of that, and that is the Solicitor General of the state court. And mine was very impressed to make sure that I knew how important that was. So that's what this bill does. It adds the Solicitor General for the state court, but I can give you the entire list if you want me to. Seeing that you do. No, seeing that you don't. Yes, sir. I'll be glad to answer any questions, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st with a question.
Mr. Chair, do you yield?
I certainly do.
So do you know that the additional people that you've added to this list, are they trained in how to care for their weapons so that they're not overtaken and have that weapon stolen from them?
Well, their mandate that have to be post-certified, and also they'll have to be in good standing. I know that's a big word, can mean a lot of things, but that's how the bill describes it.
Do you further yield?
Sure.
Senator, do you remember where that gun came from that was used on that very sad day in which those officers were killed and the judge?
I do not know that. Could you tell us where that gun came from? Do you have a gun missing in your home? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. That gun was taken from a sheriff who was there. That gun was taken off of a person who was post-certified. So my question is, do you believe that it's wise for us to add additional guns in the room that a person in custody may be able to overtake and steal and use for bad consequences?
I do for court-certified people, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
I yield the well. I appreciate your favorable vote.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 40, the nays are 14. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 340? Senate Bill 340.
Senate Bill 340, a bill by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31795 of the OCGA relating to funding of medical education provided by hospital authorities and designated teaching hospitals and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offer the following substitute to Senate Bill 340, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31795 of the OCGA relating to funding of medical education provided by hospital authorities and designated teaching hospitals and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd to speak to Senate Bill 340.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 340 started when it was brought to me by the Georgia Board of Healthcare Workforce. Unfortunately, we lost the director, LaSharn Hughes, a few months ago. She was passionate about increasing healthcare access in rural Georgia by improving our supply of physicians and other healthcare professionals. This bill does two things related to residency training for physicians. First, it corrects language in current code, which has the AMA as the accrediting body. That is incorrect. The accrediting body for residency programs is the ACGME, the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education. The second thing it does is it takes away the size requirement that's currently in our code for residency programs, which is now 50 slots. Smaller residencies can be accredited by ACGME regardless of their size, and this change will make our law consistent with the national standards for accreditation, and it hopefully will allow us to train and keep more doctors in our state. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Doesn't appear that you have any questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 358?
Senate Bill 358, a bill by Senators Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 3555 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Public Safety Training Center available for use by certain personnel, fees, enrollment, authorization for expenditure of funds, and powers of duties so as to provide for the reimbursement of certain costs incurred by active duty, retired, or honorably discharged members of the United States Armed Forces who are attending basic law enforcement training and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 358, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 3555 of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Public Safety Training Center available for use by certain personnel, fees, enrollment, authorization for expenditure of funds, and powers and duties so as to provide for the reimbursement of certain costs incurred by active duty, retired, or honorably discharged members of the United States Armed Forces and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the well-traveled senator from the 32nd. Back to the well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 358 was developed in conjunction with Colonel Trish Ross, formerly the director of the Vector Center, which is the Veterans Education Career Transition Resource Center, for those of you who don't know, which helps veterans transition from military service to civilian employment, and Executive Director Chris Wigginton of the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. It provides for tuition reimbursement for veterans coming out of service who want to pursue basic law enforcement training. This program is already available to police chiefs, wardens, emergency medical personnel, and communications officers. It does not include travel expenses, meals, or lodging, and is subject to appropriations. We have vacancies in many of our law enforcement agencies. By making it easier for interested veterans to access these training programs, we can keep more of these highly trained individuals in our state. Happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 358? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 361?
Senate Bill 361, a bill by Senators Walker of the 20th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to income taxes so as to enact the Law Enforcement Strategic Support Act, Less Crime Act, to provide for tax credits for certain contributions made by taxpayers to certain local law enforcement foundations and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Finance offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 361, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to income taxes so as to enact the Law Enforcement Strategic Support Act, Less Crime Act, to provide for tax credits for certain contributions made by taxpayers to certain law enforcement foundations and for other purposes. Mr. President, a fiscal note has been attached to this bill and is on your desk. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the distinguished and good friend from Perry, Georgia, to present Senate Bill 361.
Well, good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President. Today I bring before you Senate Bill 361, the Law Enforcement Strategic Support or Less Crime Act. This legislation is the brainchild of our friend and esteemed President of the Senate, and it's modeled after the rural hospital tax credit legislation that he shepherded through the General Assembly several years ago that's been phenomenally successful. Have you all heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Most of us have learned about that in school. So it's a pyramid, and the most basic needs, the foundation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are physiological needs such as food, water, and shelter. And then the next level after that of your basic needs is safety and security. And that's what this bill addresses, is our communities all want to be safe. All of our constituents want to be safe and secure, their property and their well-being. And this is a way for us to get beyond the scope of government to enhance Georgia's public safety efforts by incentivizing private partnerships with local law enforcement agencies and to expand law enforcement resources. Simply put, this legislation allows taxpayers to direct money that they already owe to the state on their state income tax to local police and sheriff's offices if they choose to do so, and they would do this through a nonprofit foundation, and they would get a dollar-for-dollar tax credit when they contribute to this public safety sector. We've had law enforcement participation in the creation of this bill to make sure that the foundation structure will work for them. There are a lot of nonprofit foundations already in existence. One of the most well-known is the Atlanta Police Foundation. It's the largest of its kind in the U.S., but this goes beyond the metro area and exists across, these foundations exist across the state, including smaller communities like Athens, Statesboro, and Auburn, Georgia. County sheriff departments are also supported by existing foundations in Bullock, Effingham, Cherokee, and Clayton County. And the senator from the 56 in the committee hearing stated he's got experience helping set up these foundations, and he says it's very straightforward. And also the Atlanta Police Foundation stated in the committee that they would be willing and offer to help assist smaller jurisdictions in helping set up this foundation, these foundations. The bill caps each foundation's contributions at $5 million each so that you don't have one foundation usurping all the tax credits and taking all the resources. So it's a $5 million cap per foundation so that all agencies across Georgia will have access. A single taxpayer can contribute up to $5,000 of their tax liability, and a married couple filing jointly can contribute $10,000. Subchapter S and LLCs can contribute $10,000, and C Corps can contribute 75% of their state tax liability. As we've seen across the nation, we've seen a big spike in violent crime. And I know that all the members of this body want to keep our communities safe and want to support our law enforcement and back the men and women in blue. and this is a way to partner with the private sector to do that. Senate Bill 361, its legislators are focused on 5 areas that the money can be used for. Hire more police or deputies, pay them more, train them more, provide equipment, or set up a co-responder model team to address mental health calls. And there's a companion legislation coming to us, I think it's Senate Bill 403, that will establish a statewide structure and framework for the co-responder model. So very excited about that. The contributions that flow through this program cannot be used for any other reason. I'm particularly excited about the training enhancement and the potential to help address mental health challenges in our community, 2 areas that we hear a lot about. Regardless of the statistics, the crisis within the public safety sector can be felt when we talk to our constituents, our chiefs, our sheriffs, our hospital administrators, our judges, and what we read in the local paper and see on the news. It impacts all of Georgia, rural, urban, and suburban. That's all I have, Mr. President. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 26th with a question.
Senator, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Senator, I heard you talk about tax liability. Does that mean that if they got a $5,000 tax liability, they write a check of $5,000 and it will go to that organization, which means that it doesn't go to the Georgia Department of Revenue?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's redirecting their state tax dollars to support law enforcement.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I'm proud that we have bipartisan support, a lot of bipartisan signatures on this, and I would ask that you all support this, and I'd love to see a unanimous vote on this. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, and also thank you for bringing this bill before us. Thank you, Senator from the 20th, and thank you, the President of the Senate's Chief of Staff. This bill has a lot of good things involved in it, especially the charitable donations that can benefit our communities with police protection and other security measures. It also enhances training, and training's the key, especially to teach our men and women in blue to do other things before you pull a weapon. And I think we all should be supportive of that. We're just not talking about pulling your weapon or a taser or whatever. We're talking about de-escalating the situation by being trained properly to do. The senator from the 29th is the expert in this chamber about that, and I know that he would, with all the comments that he's made to me in the past, and I'm not going to talk about privileged conversations, but I know that he has inspired me that training is a key to make sure our communities are safe and to make sure our law enforcement officers that we dear so much here in this Senate body, that they have the resources and the training to help, again, de-escalate a situation instead of having to pull a weapon. So affirmative vote on this would help ensure that scenario. So thank you so much again, Senator from the 20th, for shepherding this issue. And I know what you used to want to be in the police roles a long time ago when you were playing in the sandbox with your little weapons, but thank you so much for bringing this professionally to us today. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take a moment and thank our Lieutenant Governor, President of this body, for his extraordinary leadership on this issue. Make no mistake, this is a game changer. Not just serving as your chairman of public safety, but in my district, we have started numerous public safety foundations. These are 501c3 organization that helps our first responders today by providing some of that equipment and materials and assistance to them in their time of need. I can't tell you how excited all those foundations are about this bill and what it's going to mean in our communities. We have playbooks that we put together to help each one of those set up. We've helped 9 other ones form just in the northern part of the state so far. And my wife and I actually started the Second Alarm Foundation to help out those in rural areas that don't have access to that currently. So as a team, I would like to work with each one of you in your community to provide that playbook so they can set up a foundation, leverage these resources, and keep our communities more safe. This is a great piece of legislation. I'm sure it will receive a unanimous vote, and thank you again, Mr. President, for your leadership. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 361? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. I want to take a second to thank the senator from the 20th for your efforts shepherding this bill across. I want to thank the chamber for your bipartisan support throughout the entire process. And I'm proud that this Senate chamber is sending a clear, unanimous message to 11 million Georgians that we do care about their public safety. Thank you for that effort. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 841?
House Bill 841, a bill by Representatives Dollar of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of East Cobb to provide a charter to provide for prior ordinances and rules, pending matters and existing personnel and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations General do recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations offer the following substitute to House Bill 841. A bill to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of East Cobb to provide a charter to provide for boundaries and powers of the city, to provide for a governing authority of such city and the powers, duties, authority, election, terms, vacancies, compensation, expenses, qualifications, prohibitions, conflicts of interest, and suspension and removal from office relative to members of such governing authority and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to House Bill 841.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 841 will simply allow the voters in unincorporated East Cobb County the opportunity to vote on a referendum to become a city. In the last 17 years, the Georgia General Assembly has had 11 bills to allow voters in unincorporated areas to vote on cityhood. 10 of those passed. One of them failed by the voters. Ultimately, here in the General Assembly, we do not create cities. We only create the opportunity for the citizens in those areas to vote. Cities have been created in Gwinnett County, in DeKalb, and Fulton County. In fact, as a reminder, one of the last cities we passed in this Senate was the city of South Fulton, where I got to work with a senator from the 35th District, and I've got a copy of that bill, vote total, on your desk today. And you'll notice, while not unanimous, it was certainly bipartisan. As in all citihoods, there's been a long process. For over 4 years, groups have met. They've had town hall meetings, they've had Zoom meetings, they've had websites, they've had emails. Feasibility studies have been sent and found to be effective. At this point, I think we all know that we either agree with that process of allowing cities to vote or we don't. So I'm sure everybody's made up their mind where they want to vote today. But this is, again, the simple opportunity to give the people of East Cobb the opportunity to vote on self-determination. With that, I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I rise today just to give an opposing viewpoint as a member of SLOGO when this bill passed through. I don't have an objection, generally speaking, to cityhood movements. I believe in self-determination. There were two concerns that I had in committee that I just want to air out before we vote. First one was an amendment that I proposed in committee that was actually adopted, so I appreciated that. The original version of the bill did not stipulate that city council members running for the new city would have to live within the districts that they would represent, which doesn't serve representative government in the way that we understand it. That amendment was adopted, so I did appreciate that, but I thought that that belied a sense of the way that this bill was drafted in a way that maybe didn't pay attention to the details and was being rushed through a little bit. The second concern I brought up related to the timeline of the proposed cityhood movement. This current bill would propose that the referendum question be put on for the primary elections in May, which is pretty soon, as we know, with somewhat lower turnout, as we also know, in order for the municipal elections to be held in November with the general elections in the effort to stand up the city by January 2023. This, I felt, is an arbitrary deadline. There's no reason that I can see that we need to work on this rush schedule. Nothing happens if we don't stand up the city by January 2023. There's no reason I see that we can't slow it down a little bit and say January 2024 as the deadline. As I said, it's arbitrary. And the reason that I would propose taking a little bit more time, again, I'm not objecting to the idea of cityhood for this city or any city, is to allow for a full fiscal analysis of the impact of this city on Cobb County, not just East Cobb itself, but also in the setting of the fact that there are 4 separate cityhood movements being proposed for Cobb at this moment. And I don't think I have seen any data on what the impact on Cobb County would be, on the remainder of Cobb County, if all 4 cityhood movements did in fact pass. So that was the reason for my objection in SLOGO. I would urge people to just think cautiously about this decision. Again, not for or against cityhood, but just the process and the measured way in which we do things in this body. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. I can understand the need for autonomy. However, I encourage us to slow down this process of citihoods in Cobb County for the following reasons. We need time to do a study to look at the effects on the county from a financial viewpoint and the effect it will have on services. If we add citihoods to the May primary, we need to consider the effect it may have on the efficiency of an A-rated Cobb County Board of Elections to prepare in such a short turnaround time for cityhoods to be on the ballot, along with new redistricting areas, a whole slate of legislative contests, congressional contests, and referendums. Team Cobb County, let's come together right now over me. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 31, the nays are 18. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to immediately transmit House Bill 841 to the House.
Senator from the 56th has asked that this body immediately transmit House Bill 841 back to the House. Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of immediately transmitting the bill over to the House, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 20th rise? I want to make an announcement. Sorry. Roger that. You've earned that right. On the motion to immediately transmit House Bill 841, the yeas are 30, the nays are 16. It has failed to require the 2/3 required, so it will move across to the other chamber in normal order tomorrow. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, 11 February 2022.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read your announcements?
The Rules Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in 4:50 today. The Public Safety Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 1 p.m. today. The Science and Technology Committee will meet in 310 of the CLOB at 1 p.m. today. The Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 2 p.m. today. And the Regulated Industries and Utilities will meet in 4:50 at 3 p.m. today. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for an announcement.
All right, tomorrow is John Bullock Day. Wear your blue jeans, boots, big old belt buckle if you'd like, but John Bullock Day tomorrow. Thank you.
It still means you're required to wear a tie and a jacket. Yes. Okay, just making sure. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for an announcement. you're up. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much. I want to issue an invitation to attend the weekly lunch meeting of Working Families Caucus today in CLOB 307. We will be hearing from the on the mental health parity bill, as well as on some other important legislation that's moving through our chambers. You are welcome in 307 to pick up a box lunch and Zoom in. Thank you so much.
The Majority Leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Friday, February 11th, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes absolutely have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.